Welcome back, 7th graders. It's week 11. It's our first lesson of the week. I hope you had a good couple days off. I did. I spent the weekend setting up my brother's pool from the winter to get it ready for the summer. My job was to watch my nephews while my much stronger sister and brother did all the heavy lifting, but it was totally worth it because we got to go swimming this weekend. I'm a little sad to go back to work, but this is our job right now, so we got to do it. It definitely felt like summer this weekend. It kind of feels like summer today. It'll be here soon enough. In the meantime, we got to do the right thing. So in our textbook, we're on page 321. We're still in topic 6, lesson 4. All right, let's start off with a quiz. It's a repeat question, so it should be easy peasy for you. Where can we find fresh groundwater? A, at the bottom of the ocean. B, trapped in layers of rock underground. C, trapped in ice. Or D, in lakes. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm going to get rid of A right away because I'm looking for fresh groundwater, and water in the ocean is salt water, not fresh water. I'm also going to get rid of lakes because that's not where you find groundwater. So the correct answer is trapped in layers of rock underground. That's where the word ground comes from in groundwater. It is underneath the soil and dirt. So today's goal is to learn more about groundwater. And again, the definition of groundwater is fresh water that can be found underground in between rock layers. So where does this groundwater come from? We're going to look at this in a series of steps, 1 through 4. So the first step is that precipitation or rain occurs. The second step is that gravity, the force that kind of pulls us to the earth or pulls you down when you jump, will pull water down to the ground. Because remember, rain comes from the sky. So gravity is going to pull that water down to ground level. Then water is going to seep or go into the soil. Another word for soil is dirt. Okay, and finally, some water is able to go through rock and will collect between rock layers, and this is what we call groundwater. So it goes through the grass, through the soil, and even through rock. Okay, but how can water go through rock? That seems like impossible. Well, water can go through rock if it is porous. All right, well, what does porous mean? So porous means many empty spaces or holes. Maybe you've heard the word pore before. Those are like, it almost looks like little holes on your nose and maybe your chin. They can kind of fill up with dirt or oil, and that's how you kind of get like blackheads. So think of pore, think of holes. When something is porous, think of something as having many holes. Okay. So let me give you an example of a porous rock. So an example would be sandstone. So since sandstone has lots of holes or empty spaces, water can really easily flow through it. So that's why you see in this diagram, you've got your soil. Water can go through soil no problem. Again, soil is also very porous. And water can go through sandstone because sandstone is a porous rock. Okay, now when water hits a non-porous rock, it's going to stop going through and it'll just start collecting because it's almost like a big bowl that's going to hold water without any spaces for water to escape. So granite is an example of a non-porous rock. So water will not flow through granite. So again, if I look to this diagram, water can go through soil, it can go through sandstone, but then it's going to stop at granite and it's actually going to collect because it can't flow through granite. Granite is a non-porous rock. Let's just review porous and non-porous rock one more time so we really understand it. Just so you know, all rock is made up of small pieces of minerals stuck together. We call these small pieces sediments. So rock is actually made up of a bunch of different minerals that are stuck together, and minerals can be found in different sizes, and we call these sediments. Let's start off with porous rock. So here's a picture of porous rock, and you can see that the sediments, or the small pieces that make up the rock, aren't really close together. There's a lot of space in between them. They're social distancing. So porous rock has lots of space between sediments for water to go through. Example from the last diagram is sandstone. Let's compare this against non-porous rock. So if porous rock has a lot of spaces for water to go through, what do you think non-porous rock is going to look like? It's going to look like no space. This is a bad example of social distancing. They're very close together. They're even overlapping. So non-porous rock has no space between sediments, so water can't pass through. Can you think of an example that I gave you in the last slide? The example of porous rock was sandstone. Do you remember the example of the non-porous rock? Starts with the letter G. It's granite. Granite's a really strong, sturdy rock, so they'll often use it for building materials and houses. All right, so we're back to this diagram, and I want us to pay attention to the groundwater. We're going to give it a new name now. So the volume, and volume is an amount used to measure liquid. Remember, water is a liquid. So the volume of porous rock that can hold water is called an aquifer. So here is the aquifer in our diagram that we've been looking at. All right, so again, we can use groundwater. It's fresh water, so we can use it for drinking and cooking and farming. But in order to access the groundwater, we must build a well. So we have to drill into the rock in order to build a well so we can use that groundwater. So large groundwater supplies can take hundreds or thousands of years to form. So this isn't something that happens quickly. Groundwater takes a long time to build up to a supply that we can actually use it. And this is going to take longer for aquifers to form in dry, hot regions. That's because you're going to lose a lot of water to evaporation. Evaporation is when water goes from a liquid to a gas, and that happens when the temperature is warm. How do we use groundwater? We know we have to drill a well to access this, but what do we use it for? Well, if an area does not have access to a lake or river, remember lake or rivers are freshwater sources, groundwater can be used to provide access to fresh water for drinking and farming. So you need a lot of water for farming. And remember, I'm not just talking about growing plants, I'm also talking about farming animals like cows, pigs, chickens. That all needs a lot of water. All right, so if an area does not have porous rock, that means water can't go through the soil. It can't go through the rock, so it's not going to build up. So you're not going to have an aquifer, or you're not going to have even any groundwater. So it really depends on the type of rock that an area has. So as we see in this diagram from our textbook that we've looked at, I think 2 weeks ago, groundwater is not evenly distributed around the world. So purple on this map shows that there is a lot of groundwater, and that kind of yellow beige color shows that that area doesn't have a lot of groundwater, or it has shallow aquifer. Shallow means not very deep. So for example, let's look at Russia. Here we go, I circled it in yellow. That has a huge amount of groundwater. And let's compare it to the country of Singapore, which has no aquifer, so it doesn't have groundwater. So this resource, this natural resource, is not evenly distributed around the world. All right, let's end with a quiz. What statement best describes an aquifer? Is it A, a non-porous rock, B, precipitation that is carried downhill, C, surface water, or D, a large amount of groundwater in porous rock? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm going to get rid of non-porous rock because remember, if you have a non-porous rock, that means there's no space between sediments, so there's no space for water to flow through, so water can't move through non-porous rock. I'm also going to get rid of surface water because surface water is on top of our land masses, on top of our continents, and groundwater, which makes up an aquifer, is underneath the ground. So correct answer is large amount of groundwater in porous rock. All right, guys, welcome back to the week. I will see you soon. Hey, at least it's a short week. And have a good day. Stay cool.